Network Entertainment.
Who's ready for story time?
What's going on? This is Xavier Woods, aka Austin Creed.
Let me talk to you.
Hello, WWE Universe in the Philippines. This is Charlotte.
Hey everyone, this is Jeff Cobb.
I have to finish the story.
We are pretty deadly. Yes, boy. Yes, boy.
Run!
Bang! The sniper is shooting you down. This is TMDK's Robbie Eagles.
Hey, this is the Cosmic Cactus, Paul London.
Hello, my name is Ilya Dragunov, the Czar, the NXT champion, and you're listening to...
And you're listening to...
And you're listening...
And you are listening...
And you're listening
to the Wrestling Podcast.
The Wrestling Podcast.
The Wrestling Podcast.
The Wrestling Podcast.
To the Wrestling Podcast. Yeah.
Welcome to the Wrestling Podcast post-show. This is the bonus episode that we record right after the live stream, and it's not part of the live stream just because we have so much to get to every week. Stancy and Emile natin checking in for some NXT conversation, starting off with the surveillance video that aired as part of this week's NXT that shows or suggests na baka nga si Lexis King yung nag-attack kay Trick Williams. So, it's still not clear who Trick's attacker is, kind of like how we don't know who the devil is. What do you think about this one? Kasi may tension pa rin between Melo and Trick no matter how they try to downplay it. But then Lexis King likes to fashion himself as the shit stirrer on NXT.
Yun na nga, no? Kasi the video, like, kasi before this video was released on NXT yesterday, ang talagang hula ko talaga, it was Melo eh. That Melo is the one who attacked Trick. Kasi Melo has been showing heel tendencies lately, and maybe Lexis King was just stirring shit up. You know, hindi talaga siya yung umatake kay Trick Williams. But now there's this video, and yung initial hunch ko was red herring, but I also can't help but to think what the video showed was also a red herring. So it's a red herring of a red herring. Kasi talagang all signs are pointing to Melo who attacked Trick. Kasi yun na nga eh, medyo heelish siya si Melo lately, and there's some tension between these two na, you know, na at some point like they will blow off and they will eventually have the turn and have the feud. So question dito is what's gonna happen now? So I feel like what will happen is, yes, it wasn't Melo who attacked Trick, but Melo will attack Trick. And maybe that will come sa Iron Survivor Challenge. Yun lang yung hula ko na mangyayari dito. Na yes, it wasn't him, but like he can justify it na, oh, I'm a man. If I want to attack you, I'll do it like in front of you and, you know, in front of everyone. You know, so yun lang. That's what I think will happen.
How invested are you in this whole who attacked Trick angle? Because it was hot for like a minute.
Yeah, I know.
Ganun din, kind of like how the devil conversation has kind of died down a bit. It's not as it's not as fascinating where kating-kati tayo to find out who it is. It's more of like, okay, let's just find out so we know na.
I feel din kasi it went too long for the sake of like long-term story. Na they could have, you know, they could have handled this one right then and there. Na they could have revealed na yes, it was Melo and they're gonna feud. So ngayon medyo parang pinacomplicate pa siya na slam dunk na siya eh, na people already penciling in this Melo versus Trick feud, and Trick for a while there, I mean, he's still over, but for a while he was the hottest thing on NXT. And now it felt like because of how this feud is going and Trick Melo are still Trick Melo, di pa nangyari yung breakup, na parang nag-cool off siya for a bit. You know, not saying that eventually if the feud happens, it's going to be cold, but they didn't capitalize it when I feel like they should have capitalized on it.
All right. So, sige, let's move on and talk about the Iron Survivor Challenge, because next week's NXT will feature a last chance match for the 4 superstars on both the men's and women's brackets na natalo sa mga qualifying matches nila. You mentioned Melo earlier. kasi si Trick has already punched his ticket to the Iron Survivor Challenge at NXT Deadline. So Melo is in this match. Eddie Thorpe, he just got defeated by Braun Breaker this past week. Joe Coffey, and then Tyler Bates. Sinong bet mo or sino yung prediction mo to take the last spot in the men's Iron Survivor Challenge?
I think it's gonna be Eddie Thorpe. If I'm completely honest with you, because Melo, I don't see him. I don't see him being involved in this match because he will be involved after the match. Joe Coffey and Tyler Bate. Di ba nagpo-feud yung Gallus and Tyler Bate? So I don't think they're gonna be in this match. So plus, I feel like hindi pa nagsishine si Eddie Thorpe ever since making his debut, and he hasn't had, even though he had the match with Braun Breaker from a while back, but he hasn't had a very signature signature moment. So I feel like he's gonna get that last spot. I'm going with Eddie Thorpe.
Huh, interesting. All right. I want Tyler Bate to get that last spot just because I've always loved when Tyler Bate is in these big matches, and I feel like medyo overdue na rin siya since his last really huge moment was against Braun Breaker last year nung Worlds Collide. So I want Tyler Bate to be that last competitor. I think he will wreak havoc in a match like the Iron Survivor Challenge, but given yung storyline in Melo and Trick and the attacker, I think it will be Melo.
Oh, that's interesting. Like, does the turn will happen within the match?
It could. Pwede rin after, like, as a result, diba, na parang masama loob ni Melo na si Trick pala yung nanalo, na si Trick na yung number 1 contender, tapos si Melo parang nalalaos na siya in NXT.
Yeah, so, parang ano pala to, yung Trick Melo story, parang Kobe and Shaq feud pala to. Do I get over?
Yeah, probably, diba?
Yeah, so
crossing over to the women's side. So yung fatal four-way naman is Fallon Henley versus Roxanne Perez versus Thea Hale versus Kiana James. Ito mas up in the air to kaysa sa men's for me.
Really? I feel like this is a slam dunk. I feel like this is Fallon Henley spot.
Huh, really?
Yeah, because Roxanne and Kiana are feuding with each other and probably gonna have a match at the deadline special. And Thea Hill is she's in the middle of the Chase You storyline. So I think this is Fallon Henley to win. Plus, for me, Fallon has she has grown on me over the last few months. Now, kasi pag nung kasama niya sila yung tag team, sila Jensen and Briggs, right? I get their names mixed up. When she was the valet of the tag team, parang she's just there. Pero when she started to going on her own as a singles, talagang she grew on me, and dati hindi ko pa siya notice, but now she's one of my favorites sa NXT. So I feel like this is her spot, yung last spot sa Iron Survivor Challenge.
Interesting. So napaisip ako about this one because I still don't know who I want in that last spot, and I don't know who to predict, but you're making a very solid case for Fallon Henley. Like, my default is Roxanne Perez because Roxanne Perez. But then again, she's been in this spot before. She made it all the way to winning the NXT Women's Championship, diba? Unlike si Grayson Waller, who won last year's Iron Survivor Challenge. Yeah, you're kind of right. You actually sold me on Fallon Henley.
Yeah. She's an underrated star there, I feel like, sa NXT. Fallon Henley.
All right. So sige, those are our picks. And then watch us with egg on our face next week when Fallon Henley fails to advance to the Iron Survivor Challenge.
Yeah.
Last bit from NXT na pag-uusapan natin ngayon, Andre Chase, man. You mentioned yung storyline and Chase You, and I'm going to go out and say that Andre Chase is a very compelling babyface in distress because he's going through a PR nightmare. Diba? He is the face of his own university, tapos merong allegations of fraud and like robbery or whatever, right? So like I think he's sympathetic because he's always presented himself as someone earnest. Na kahit na rough around the edges siya, minumura niya yung mga estudyante niya, he cares for his school, he cares for the students, and then now na merong mga paratang na fraud ka, na nagnanakaw ka pala ng funds ng Chase You, which, by all accounts is basically still a fictional university.
Yeah.
He's actually handling the PR nightmare in a way na parang merong nag-aral ng PR, tinuruan siya kung paano i-execute yun sa storyline. Like, he presents himself in a sympathetic manner. Inaamin niya, di ba, as of this week na, yes, merong kalokohang nangyari. I am accountable for it. And I am going to do what I can to rectify it. Like, that's PR one-on-one. If your brand has messed up, you don't deny it. Lalo na if there's evidence pointing towards you needing to be held accountable. You admit na nagkamali ka, and then you tell the people what they want to hear, which is that you will take the necessary steps to correct it.
Yes, definitely. I've been liking where this story is heading. Noong una, naguluhan pa ako because they never really explained it. They just showed yung sino nga yun, yung female associate nung the D'Angelo family and them talking sa parking lot, and it grew week by week, and now we're up to this point na okay, I now know what's happening, and I have a clue now on on where this story is heading, and it probably will lead to either Duke Hudson or JC Jane, sila yung may fault dito sa nangyari sa Chase U, and Andre Chase is just covering their bases kasi those are his guys, diba? So this will probably lead to that. And and I am liking this story kasi it is so real life as well. Na you have nangyayari to in real life. Na you have the universities facing scandals. Na they're frauding money. I feel like nangyari na to in a way here sa Pilipinas. I'm not sure.
Alam ko sasabihin mo na, may PR nightmare ng nangyayari ngayon, 'di ba? Merong sikat na Australiano na PDF pala.
Oh, yeah, di ba? So,
by the way, to correct you, yung female associate ng D'Angelo family, she has a name and she's actually part of the family. Her
may name siya.
Adriana Rizzo.
Adriana Rizzo, yeah. So, sorry if I forgot. So, it's very real. Ito na yung sinasabi ko na very human nature storytelling of WWE in the last year or so. I think mas nauna dito NXT because before Triple H took over, there's been stories like this in NXT na before. That's why I kind of got hooked back into NXT because of stories like this. Because of it's stories that you won't really see in the main roster setting like Raw and SmackDown, but it works in an environment like NXT where you have these characters na it's so out of this world, but it works, and in some way na-hook din yung mga viewers to their characters and to their storyline. So I'm pretty much looking forward to how this all ends. Probably Duke Hudson turning on Chase U kasi malalaman na siya pala talaga yung may kasalanan in all of this. So that's my prediction.
Yeah, the thing about storylines on NXT that we've seen over the last decade or so of NXT's life on television is that they have some really interesting stuff na hindi lang nagta-translate talaga to the main roster.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because of how NXT exists in its own little bubble sa performance center, diba? It's got its own regulars, kind of like a territory, diba? It's kind of like yung OVW or yung Monster Factory, or even like an MWF, where you have your regulars. You have people who get these stories even though they tend to be off the deep end or wackadoo, diba? Pero if tinranslate mo sila sa main roster, it might not have that same level of success just because it's a different brand, it's a different vibe. So I think a storyline like Chase U is one of those stories na kapag dinala mo sa Raw and SmackDown, it might not work. I could be wrong, but based on precedent, baka lang ganun.
Yeah, if this storyline was on Raw, this would be like they won't hindi siya mabigyan ng proper time, I feel like. Kasi magmumukha siyang parang yung mga comedic na mga storylines. Kasi yung mga R-Truth, no offense to R-Truth, I love R-Truth, pero yung mga ganun na storylines na it's not the major story of the show, it's just there to make you laugh or to make you feel certain type of way.
Not that it's a bad thing, kasi there's always a place for comedy in wrestling.
Yeah, exactly. Pero if kung doon siya sa main roster, hindi siya mabibigyan ng time, and it will not be taken as seriously as people are here in NXT. We're talking about it here on a podcast. Na we're dissecting this story, and I'm loving this story, and nabibigyan siya ng proper time and attention.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's basically it for the Wrestling Podcast post show. Let us know what you think, especially with NXT. It doesn't get us much love, but as we get closer to NXT deadline, ayan na, pag-usapan natin, we're gonna have the predictions episode din naman. So let us know what you think. Hit us up. It is at Wrestling2XPod on Twitter and on TikTok, and individually it is at EML_Meister, at RoisWar, at Chino Supersized, at Monday Night Rowan, and at _Stan C. For Emile Nate, the my name is Stan C. The Wrestling Podcast post show is in the books. Later, weirdos.
Peace.
The opinions of podcast creators, hosts, and guests are not necessarily reflective of the official stance of the Pod Network Entertainment, its hosts, or other network programs. The content created by the people behind the podcast is personal and not meant to harm any religion, ethnicity, group, organization, company, or individual.